All right, guys, let's try this again. Welcome to the Sunday Night Live, where I help people quit nicotine, cannabis, and overcome substance use disorders. Real fast, if you're new here, you're probably going to want to fast forward through the first few minutes, especially if you're listening to the replay, because typically what I do is I answer questions from people as the questions come in, and things often start off a little slow. Secondly, if you wind up enjoying tonight's conversation and you need more in depth help, and you find this information valuable, I have a one-on-one coaching program that you can learn more about in the pinned comment or the link in the video description. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, as you guys come in, start asking me questions about things, okay? Because basically, what I do is I just kind of rapid fire through the comments and the questions that you have about quitting nicotine, cannabis, stimulants, media content, kind of whatever it is you're struggling with. I'm going to do my best to help you out. Cold turkey or patches. So, this individual is asking me about stopping the use of nicotine products. And Jaden, that's going to depend on a few things. One, have you tried cold turkey before? And if so, has that failed you? Have you tried patches before? And if so, has that failed you? Because the first thing we want to do is look at your past quit attempts and start to gather some information on where you might have been most successful in stopping. Because if you've had a streak that was super successful, we're going to want to start by mimicking that streak and then correcting whatever was wrong. Now, generally speaking, though, if I'm helping someone stop using nicotine and cold turkey looks like it's going to be a problem, patches are actually the route that I typically go. And I usually recommend nicotine patches in conjunction with a supplement called NAC, N-acetylcysteine. It's really good at helping to reduce cravings among having a host of other benefits. So I am a fan of patches if the person is not able to stop cold turkey or they're having a hard time. There's a few other benefits to patches too. From like a harm reduction standpoint, you're significantly reducing harm. And I do find though, for a lot of people, they don't need to start at the 21 milligram patch. They can actually start at the 14 or the 7, especially if supplementation is on point. Like I said, N-acetylcysteine being one of those supplements. And you can find that like at a vitamin store, you can find it on Amazon. We sell a product, Kick It Crave Less chewing gum. It's a chewing gum that contains N-acetylcysteine. You can find that at kickitrevolution.com. Great product, okay? Excellent question. If you have some more insight for me on the patches, just let me know. I just got out of rehab for alcohol and weed. Sober date July 18th, 2025. I still use nicotine for now. Any advice? Yeah, honestly, probably don't rush quitting nicotine right now, Anthony. You know, you made some big changes stopping alcohol and cannabis. And at this moment, unless you have like a burning need to quit nicotine, I probably wouldn't jump the gun on that until you're feeling 100% stable in your decision to stop the use of alcohol and cannabis, right? When you have someone, and I see this all the time inside our programs, I work with a lot of people who have poly substance use. This is very common with cannabis. They're also struggling with binge drinking. They're also struggling with stimulant abuse. They're struggling with nicotine. They're struggling with adult media content. A lot of times I tell people, look, let's find the things that are most destructive right now. Let's start with stopping that behavior, and then we'll work on removing the least harmful thing. And believe it or not, in many cases, if we're looking at like alcohol and cannabis, nicotine, even if it's cigarettes, tends to be the least harmful, not from a state of like physical health harm, but it tends to be the least interruptive in a person's life, right? Really bad cannabis substance use, really bad alcohol substance use can very rapidly mess up your relationships, your physical health, your mental health, your financial health, your business, your career. Nicotine, whether it's cigarettes, vapes, dip pouches, Zyn, a lot of people can continue their day-to-day life without major disruption on that, okay? Not say that's not unhealthy, not say that there can't be very serious health consequences, including death, if we're talking about cigarettes for sure, even vapes. But like, yeah, I'd probably pump the brakes. So, Anthony, and you'd probably be a case in a scenario where I would be talking to someone about using nicotine patches because you stopped in July. We're in August now. Your dopamine, your receptors, your endocannabinoid system, it's still going through a huge healing process. So you probably wouldn't be a case where I'd advise stopping nicotine outright cold turkey. If you really wanted to be aggressive on quitting, I'd probably be doing some type of NRT with you or something like that. Uh, Indivir, 79 days sober, cold turkey from nicotine and weed. I'm so happy I have no cravings. Congratulations. For a lot of people, again, whether they choose to taper and quit slowly, go cold turkey if it's appropriate, which in many cases we can do that with people. Yeah, within the first 90 days, the grass really is greener on the other side for them. No pun intended. Okay. So congratulations. And I'd say you're right in that time frame that I normally see with people when I work with people, I have a minimum of a 3-month commitment. And one of the reasons for that is because it takes about 3 months, 90 days is pretty accepted as a gold standard for new habit development. Okay. So congrats. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Anthony says, how do you prevent relapse going forward? So Anthony, this is going to be different from what you heard in treatment, but in my approach and in my protocol, I don't use the word relapse. I would say what you're really asking me is how do you prevent the conscious decision to choose consuming a substance again, right? I really make this about the power of choice and free will because I believe everyone that I work with is autonomous. I believe that everyone I work with has free will and you have the ability to make your own choices. So, relapse, I start by preventing relapse by removing the word relapse from the equation completely. You either choose to use a substance or you don't choose to use a substance, period. Now, how do you prevent from going back to it? That really starts with dissecting your belief system, which is often rooted in the perceived benefits that you get from returning to substance use. So, Anthony, in your case, if you're still thinking there's strong benefits that you have associated with cannabis and alcohol, then I would be concerned about a return to use. If your belief system surrounding the perceived benefits of cannabis and alcohol has been completely dismantled, then quite frankly, I wouldn't really be too concerned about a conscious decision going back to use it. Now, I assume you're through because you were at a facility through most of the physical withdrawal symptoms. Maybe you're still going through some psychological, but I would think at this point, the withdrawal isn't going to be an alleviation of withdrawal. Perceived benefit being consuming drugs again is going to lessen that, is what's going to bring you back to it. Um, Right. So I think you're asking me a very specific question, and there's so many factors involved. I also don't know, Anthony, a lot about your comorbid lifestyle factors, right? So like I don't know what your relationships look like. I don't know what your finances look like. I don't know if you're happy in your career. You know what I mean? All these factors can impact a person's decision to choose using a drug again or not. When it comes to relapse prevention, if you go around my channel, I have several videos on relapse prevention. My biggest thing though is disconnecting from the belief that's usually rooted in the perceived benefits of returning back to that substance. Okay. That's really what it is. I also tend to be a very goal oriented individual. So for me, having goals, having objectives, trying to fulfill my potential, trying to fulfill aspects of my career, my relationships, my finances, that to me became what I started to chase versus a drug. Right. But that doesn't work for everyone. That worked for me and that works with a lot of people that I tend to work with. Our protocol is really focused on people who are already like high level professionals. They're high performers, whether it's in their family life, their career, whatever it may be. So that goal orientation, purpose fulfillment, potential fulfillment seems to work pretty well, right? But you gotta be careful with that because sometimes that can be overwhelming, you know. But hopefully that helps you out. Relapse starts with dismantling the beliefs surrounding relapse. To be honest. I read Alan Carr's book, says D Select, recently on quitting vaping and found it a bit underwhelming, even though I agreed with the arguments. Anything else I would recommend reading? Yeah, absolutely. There's fantastic books out there. Two of my favorite books that I find more beneficial than Alan Carr's, which I really like Alan Carr's work, would be The Freedom Model, Escaping the Addiction Recovery Trap. It's one of my favorites. And then I really like Rational Recovery. It's an older book by Jack Trimpey about alcohol, but you can just replace the word alcohol with vapes and things like that. Another great book is Dopamine Nation. And then I also really like the book, The Alcohol Experiment. Okay. Again, any of these books, just change out the word alcohol, change out the word cannabis, and insert your drug of choice. The books I'm recommending are going to apply. Okay. Maybe minus some of the physical withdrawal and detox symptoms, but a majority of the book is going to be the same. Thank you, Luciano. You really don't have to make that donation. It's very appreciated. It's what supports doing lives like this. People who work in our protocol, it's what supports us being able to help others. But thank you for the kind comment. We're going to keep on keeping on. That's absolutely right. Yeah, in Alan Carr's book, look, here's the deal. It's called The Easy Way to Quit Vaping, The Easy Way to Quit Drinking, right? And that's good. Like, I like it because it is easy. Making a single decision to improve your quality of life does not have to be hard. Making that decision is actually easy. But the I think there's a flaw in calling it the easy way, just because, and I'm going to say this, for some people it's not easy. And then what winds up happening is, like, we've had numerous people in our one-on-one programs who have gone to Alan Carr's workshops, they've read Alan Carr's books, and what happens is it sets this expectation that it's going to be easy. And you can't just assume that about everyone who's quitting, because everyone has different situations, different environments. So the person reads the book, they go through the program, and they think this is going to be easy. Easy doesn't wind up matching their reality, because now they had this false expectation. It was actually difficult for them, and they thought it was going to be really easy. And now we have a problem, right? Because now our expectations don't match our reality in quitting the substance. And now the person is saying, well, what the heck? I'm screwed, right? All these millions of people quit with Alan Carr's books easily. Well, what about me? I must be different. I must be unique. I must be in a worse position than anyone if I can't quit with this. And then they tend to find themselves in a really dark place, right? Alan Carr's book was one of the first books that I read that really got me started on my quitting journey. But I do think there's more, updated things and things like that. But I love Alan Carr's work. I would highly recommend that book to everyone. So Muslim vlogs, you relapsed after 30 days. Listen, here's the reality. You didn't relapse. You made a conscious decision to going back to consuming that substance. You are not some spontaneous animal or feather blowing in the wind that is incapable of making conscious, rational decisions. Why did you choose to go back to using the substance after 30 days? That's the question we have to answer. And it's very important that we answer that question. Time and time again, I'm working with clients and they'll come to me and they'll say, I'm stuck in this loop of self-sabotage. I just can't stop self-sabotaging. No, in many cases, they're not truly self-sabotaging. They're making rational decisions to consume a drug again because they believe it's giving them some benefit. They're suffering super bad withdrawal symptoms and they feel consuming the drug again is going to alleviate the withdrawals. They're having serious stress in their career or their marriage or their relationship. And they truly believe consuming cannabis or drinking alcohol or vaping is going to give them stress relief. That's not self-sabotage. That's making a rational decision. You're choosing the thing that's easiest, that your brain knows how to do quickest, smoking, drinking, whatever it is. Sadly, it just tends to be the most destructive decision, but it's rational. And so I hope that makes sense. And also on the 30 days thing, it doesn't matter. That's a common time that people will relapse, because a lot of people go into quitting and they have an expectation. I'm going to go 30 days, 90 days, 120 days. They get there, they celebrate. They're like, I did it. I quit for 30 days. They quit for 90 days. And then to celebrate, they go back to using the drug, right? So I'm not sure exactly what caused it in your scenario. I'm just rapid firing things that I come across and that I've personally experienced. But I want to say this to you, Muslim. You 30 days, you didn't lose anything. Okay. Like, you can't lose or gain sobriety time. That's not what it's about. Okay. I don't care about days. I don't care about how many days someone's quit. I care about their development along the way. I care about their self-development. That's what I look for. So if someone goes 30 days without using cannabis or alcohol, but they had some degree of self-development or self-reflection and something positive came away from it, from those 30 days, great. We gained something from that. It's no big deal. We just get back on to quitting again. That's it. If that's what the person wants to do, right? Cold turkey, RC, 36 days, nicotine and THC free. Congratulations. Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of people are capable of stopping cold turkey. More people than they realize. It's fear. It's fear that stops people. Some people aren't. Some people that's not advised. It depends on how much it's going to disrupt their life, right? Like I said, inside our protocol, I work with like a lot of business professionals, and we have to be careful sometimes because if they are getting really bad withdrawals and there might be risk of a major disruption to their professional career, certainly if you have a real involved family life, we have to be cautious. But like it is generally speaking very safe to stop nicotine and THC cold turkey. Nicotine, well, both of them can come with some consequences. Nicotine, if I'm really worried about blood sugar dysregulation, if someone has diabetes, this, that, pre-diabetes, maybe I won't recommend cold turkey. If there's very serious mental health conditions involved, anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, maybe we won't stop cold turkey. So there's a few instances where maybe I won't. I relapsed after 9 days, no weed. Now I'm going to try and quit again. So you didn't relapse. You made a conscious decision to go back to use. But we have to identify what that decision was. In your case, just like many other cases. Now, you're going to try and quit again. If you think you can or you think you can't, you are probably right. Okay. So don't try, just do. There is a very big difference between trying and doing. And I'll give you another tip. Okay. So many times in my life, I was like, I'm trying so hard, I'm trying so hard, I'm trying so hard. And I wasn't actually trying. I wasn't actually putting forth effort. I see this so often. People think they're trying, people think they're doing, and they're not. It's slightly challenging. We think we're trying super, super hard. And the reality is, we're not even trying at 50, 60, 70% of our actual capabilities. Okay. So I would just dig a little deeper next time, figure out what went wrong, correct it, and start to get the mindset of I can do this. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. And so many people don't believe. I am people, by the way. This was me. They are capable of living a life that is better without substances than with substances. And then what happens? They get paralyzed by fear and they don't even actually wind up trying. Okay. Do you do withdrawal advice on harder drugs? Yeah, Cameron Fox. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, the answer is yes. It's not something that my channel is focused on, but not only can I provide that, but we also have other coaches in our program who struggled, whose experience was with harder drugs, opioids, codeine, alcohol, uh, some other things too. I don't want to divulge too much about our other coaches, I guess, on a live. But yes, we have people in our program that we can connect you with. When I work with people one on one, we have the one-on-one component, and then we have a community component. And inside the community component, I have other coaches who have experience with other things. Okay. So, okay, this is crazy, says Izzy. Awesome. The vegan skeptic. Great to see you live, Dr. Frank. You're the best among the best. It's very, very kind of you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. The kind words just as much. I quit for 60 days, but relapsed on THC and adult media content brought me back. Yeah, Izzy, I always had a thing with THC and adult media content. They always went hand in hand for me. Okay. Um, and I don't know exactly why that is. Okay. Well, I kind of do. I always felt that THC strongly enhanced that experience of adult media content for me. Right. So watching adult media without THC felt boring. So then I go back to doing both. And my brain, my dopamine threshold was set to needing nicotine, THC. Maybe I'd be drinking alcohol and adult media content all at one time. So if I wasn't getting that all at once, I wasn't getting that dopamine hit. I wasn't getting a strong enough release. So that's why for me, all those things were connected. Now, Izzy, I want to say something else. Although I agree with you and I understand what you're saying, there is a world where you can stop using THC and you can view adult media content. They don't have to be that strongly associated. A lot of that is a mindset. Now, There is another catch to this though, Izzy. If you're really watching a lot of adult media content, right? What can happen, how it can bring you back is one, you might be up late. You like straight up, you might be up late watching adult media content. You're not getting a good night's sleep. Now your willpower is going down. You're making a decision that is typically associated with some regret, some decreased confidence. Now you're feeling crappy about yourself and you're lacking sleep. And boom, you're going back to using THC. So there's a lot of different mechanisms as to how adult media content could be associated to cannabis substance use. Like, yeah, why does that happen? Why does someone stop THC for 60 days, watch adult media content on a bender, and go back to THC? Lots of different avenues that we could explore as to why that occurs, right? Um, I couldn't quit one at a time. I had to stop everything altogether. My brain forced me into all or nothing. Yeah, Gurwal, that's very much how I was, right? I stopped everything in very close to succession to one another, right? Like almost all at once. Adult media content lingered for me for a while, though, on and off. I eventually got to a place with adult media content where it was non problematic use. Still not something I was proud of, but it became non problematic use for me. And then, I stopped. Alcohol was very similar for me. I binge drank a lot. And then I got to a place of non problematic use. And then eventually I just stopped alcohol altogether. Okay. So I understand though. I am very much an all or nothing mentality. That's you can see that on my YouTube channel. You can see that in my family life, my business life. That's how I operate. And hey, you know what? I'm happy to be that way. I would rather go all in on the things in life that I actually want to see happening, that I want to achieve, as compared to trying to moderate or constantly think about how I'm going to use this thing that's just destroying my life. I very much relate to that all in mentality. And that's why inside our protocols, we work with like a lot of, again, like high level professionals, high level thinkers, right? Parents, this, that, whatever it may be. Um, I quit cold turkey after reading Alan Carr, but after a year, I made the mistake of starting again after a rough period. I did quit cannabis now on the third week. Congratulations. Yeah, guys, those rough periods are going to come. And here's another tip for you guys. So I tell people like your hallmark goal, I really think should be, here's your timelines. If you want timelines, which I don't really like giving them, but here they are. You want to get through the first 3 to 5 days, then you want to get to 2 weeks, then you want to get to 3 months, then you want to get to 6 months, and then you want to hit a year. And I say a year because most brain scans would indicate that it's about a year to recover. But it doesn't mean that you're struggling throughout that year. Your struggling could end after the first 2 to 3 weeks for some people. Okay. But I say it's a year because it takes a year to go through life's experiences, the highs and the lows. You go to a birthday, you go to a funeral, you experience joy, you experience sadness, you experience the change of seasons, you experience, all these different things. Your first vacation without drugs, your first time off of work without drugs, your first time having intercourse again without drugs. It's a year to go through a lot of these things. So that's why I say it takes a year. So it's not that uncommon that I actually see that, especially if within that year's period, Jaden, that was your first bout of major stress that came up. But that's when it's most important to do well. That is where my benefits of quitting drugs were born from the most challenging times, right? And during the good times, not using drugs was no problem. Like it was easy, right? It was when the bad stuff happened in life that's where I got the most benefit from quitting. That's where I got the emotional discipline. That's where I got the development of grit and tenacity and commitment, right? That's where I got the confidence. It was in those challenging moments that made my quitting drugs actually worth it. And it's funny because that's where most people screw up, but that's where you have the most potential for growth to actually occur. Okay. So very, very interesting. I hope I'm framing that correctly for you. Uh, I stopped a few weeks ago and I feel extremely tired. So out of time 247. I don't know what you stopped, but I'll just throw this out there. when you stop drugs or a drug, your body is going through detox and it's going through withdrawal. And if you're talking about cannabis, you're also going through a healing of the endocannabinoid system on top of a rewiring of dopamine, serotonin, all that stuff. Okay. So, and a hallmark withdrawal symptom of almost any substance, especially cannabis, is going to be insomnia. So, of course, you feel exhausted. Your body is working overtime. But look, here's the reality: you were probably exhausted using substances too. You just didn't realize how tired you actually were because you were consuming the substances over and over and over again. And I see this all the time in high level professionals. They're working in their business, on their business, crazy career, using drugs, stimulants to wake up, cannabis to go to sleep, alcohol to chill out. And what they're doing is they're using all these substances to ignore the fatigue and the tiredness that their body's experiencing to push, to make the money, to hit the next hallmark thing. But eventually you're going to break. The body can only sustain so much. For a lot of people, that breaking point is going to start to happen around the age of 40. Some people start to feel it around the age of in their 30s. But I'd say, a lot of people that I've worked with, they're somewhere between 35 and 50 years old, depending on what they've been up to, where they start to feel that. So don't let that tiredness overwhelm you. Okay. Don't let that overwhelm you. Okay. Okay, let's see here. It's very, very common. Now look, you got to consider other things. Are you sleeping? How's your nutrition? Are you using electrolytes? Are you using supplementation? Are you a candidate for creatine monohydrate or supplementation, right? This is all stuff that I do with people inside our one-on-one protocol. It's not uncommon that I might request to learn more about someone's medical history or their blood work. Maybe there's another reason for that fatigue. Maybe there's a thyroid problem. Maybe there's something else going on maybe there's sleep apnea happening. It's such a loaded question that you're asking me, but chances are it's just because your body is detoxing and going through withdrawal. Um, the patches, I still need to get used to it because there's not the mouth feeling. Yeah, that's true. Jaden, honestly, that's why I made Kick It Crave Less chewing gum. If you guys need help quitting cannabis or nicotine, we make kickitrevolution.com. KICKIT revolution.com. Great chewing gum product, helps with the oral fixation, contains ashwagandha and N-acetylcysteine. Again, feel free to go buy the capsules from a supplement store. I don't care. I just made a product that I thought was awesome. It's helped a lot of people. So check that out if you want. Haven't drank in 4 years. Congratulations. This is what I would love. True September 33rd. I'd want to know more. Haven't had a drink in 4 years. I'd want to know more. How has that benefited your life over the last 4 years? I'm more inclined to celebrate that than the duration of time that you haven't had a drink. But I get where you're coming from, and I think it's awesome. Okay. You can't stay at home. Yeah, I agree, Izzy. When I stopped using substances, I mean, in the beginning, my health was so bad, I had to stay at home. I couldn't really do anything. But generally speaking, like, yes, getting out of your house or your apartment or wherever you are is a great thing. Like, it's very easy to get sucked into, especially during withdrawal, just laying on the bed, watching hours of TV, not really doing a lot, getting sucked into Netflix, YouTube, social media binges, doom scrolling. This isn't good. This isn't good. You're already in a vulnerable state and you're just putting yourself in a more vulnerable position by rotting away at home. Honestly, because of social media, because of television, because of Netflix, right? Right? Netflix is and I watch Netflix, I watch YouTube, right? I do this stuff. Like I veg out to that all the time. But like it knows how to take advantage of a person in a vulnerable position. So it's your responsibility to get out, get up, get moving, get out of that environment and give yourself a better chance at success. Um uh, yeah, that's true. I like the term cold stop out of time. I'm gonna use that term. I really like that. A cold stop. I like that a lot. I'm gonna use that. I smoke every day, but it's the only thing that can help me get an erection. Yeah, Mark. So I think when it comes to like health stuff like that, I just there's too many questions that I have than I do answers right now for you. What I'd say is this: if that overall has enhanced your quality of life to a greater degree than the negatives you're experiencing, then okay, then keep smoking. I'm not going to be the guy to tell you to stop, but I have a feeling there's so much more in-depth medical history and other things that have been overlooked and not tried and not discussed that need to come up, okay? And even starting from a psychological standpoint, I'd start to question there, right? But I know nothing about you and I know nothing what's going on with you, right? Like Mark, do you have a long history of low back pain? Do you have nerve compression in your low back that's maybe causing that? Is it a psychological block that's causing the ED? Right? Have you tried other things? I have more questions than I do answers. I haven't smoked weed since April 11th. Congratulations. That's right around the time of my birthday, April 13th. Awesome, awesome. Is it normal if you get cold sweats when you stop smoking weed? Absolutely. Mhm. Extremely normal to get cold sweats when you stop smoking weed. Very normal to get flu-like symptoms. Very normal. I'm working with a client right now, and the gentleman tells me all the time, he's like, look, the thermo dysregulation is intense. I sweat through my sheets at night. I've had to change them multiple times. This is extremely normal when you stop. It's a win though. It's your body healing. It's your body pumping out the toxins. That's what's happening, okay? Extremely normal for most drugs. Sloppy seconds. Hello. My unique reason for quitting weed, says the vegan skeptic, was a promise I made to myself, which was until I become an expert lucid dreamer, I want to quit weed. Yeah, lucid dreaming is an awesome thing. It's not something that I know a lot about, to be honest, but I had freaking insane dreams when I quit smoking weed. I used to, when you get that REM rebound effect, which is actually a very positive thing. In the absence of maybe extreme PTSD, then sometimes we might need to discuss a client of ours, maybe coordinating with their physician to get that medicated, because sometimes the PTSD can be a bit much. Okay. Yeah, they're banning geek bars. Maybe it's a good time to quit, right? I know they're banning geek bars. I know. I've seen the news. Um, what I don't care, right? Like, here's my deal. I'm very much an advocate of free will and choice. If I'm not for someone who's selling geek bars and vapes to people who are underage, but if you're an adult, I very much believe you should be allowed to make your own decisions. In my frame, I'd probably lean more towards the legalization of most drugs than I would lean away from it. Um, that's just my honest opinion on it. I think adults should be allowed to make their own decisions, but I think we have to be very careful how that plays a role in youth and stuff. Because banning stuff doesn't work. I saw a video on TikTok just the other day of someone packing bananas with geek bars and selling them on TikTok to people, right? Like, you can't stop everything, right? Um, I don't have a job. I go to AA meetings. I lost it for going to work high, saying stuff that cost me my job because I was high and I was walking around the town drunk. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Anthony. The good news is, you got a lot of room to make progress and you got a lot of room for growth. So Anthony, that's what I'd say. Even though you're kind of down right now, on the job thing, you have tons of potential for growth. Like, the more down and out someone is, their relationships are damaged, their careers damaged, their finances are damaged, which is not always people I work with. I work with a lot of people who do fantastic financially. They have beautiful marriages, they have beautiful careers. It's just something else with the cannabis, right? They know it's keeping them from their actual potential. That's a lot of what I work with, but I also work with people who are down and out on all types of aspects of their life. And I don't get discouraged by that. I love working with that just as much because I know the room for growth potential is so significant. I know we have a longer road ahead of us, but I know the room for growth is crazy. There's crazy potential there. And I also get really excited in those situations, Anthony, because the more down and out you are, it actually takes less effort to start hitting that potential, to actually start seeing that potential. Whereas when I got clients who are like hyper successful financially, hyper successful in their relationships, but maybe it's more like a physical health thing. It takes actually more work because now, in order to feel that growth potential, like it's harder because they don't have that. They're not coming from a bottom. They're already on top. You know what I mean? It can be harder in some instances in that case. It's a hard thing to explain, I guess. Um, okay, let's see here. All right, Anthony, I was using it to cope with PTSD and depression from losing my dad and other trauma. Yeah, of course, Anthony, I understand. I'm sorry. I really am sorry that you've had to experience that. People experience horrible things in life. I've certainly experienced some not so good things, but I've met people that have experienced things unimaginable to me. This is the good things will happen and bad things will happen. It's interesting where people derive strength from when they put down the substances, Anthony. Anthony, I think you asked me about nicotine though in the beginning. Again, now would not be a time for you to quit nicotine. I'd go back to that. Like just not now. Don't stress. Not now. Take that pressure off yourself right now. I think it's undue pressure. You're making big changes. Maybe, work on some other stuff and then revisit nicotine. Don't stress. Guys, sometimes people put undue pressure on themselves to quit substances. And I've seen this time and time again, like where someone will come to me with a substance problem, but they actually have like a bigger, more obvious problem going on. And I've talked to people and I've been like, hey, I agree the nicotine's bad and the cannabis is bad, but like, let's actually work on this other problem first, because I think if we resolve that, it's going to be easier to resolve the nicotine and cannabis. Now, in some cases, the cannabis consumption is directly preventing us from solving those other problems because of lack of motivation, fatigue, illness, whatever, time. The person just doesn't have time because they're high all the time. Like in those cases, then, well, we got to quit the cannabis first, right? I told a woman that addiction is a disease like cancer, and I got let go of that job that day. Yeah, so I personally don't believe in addiction as a disease model. I'm pretty vocal about this on my channel. And even if it's true, I wouldn't want to believe that. A lot of the literature actually shows that addiction is not a disease. Now, do I think someone should be fired for their opinion? And quite frankly, the general opinion is that addiction is a disease. No, but it's not like cancer. Like I have family members with cancer, and addiction is not cancer. And I say that as someone who struggled like seriously with addiction for several years. The problem with addiction as a disease is it makes you become powerless over it, and you're not. You do have choice. You do have free will in addiction. You may have lost that free will and that choice for some period of time. Right now, there is physical dependence to a drug. Okay, that's something. But even in extreme cases of physical dependence, we can still overcome that with medical detox and sometimes, just medical detox. So I don't view addiction as a disease. I think that's actually very, very damaging to view it that way for people. If it works for people, fine, whatever. But that mentality for most people I appeal to does not appeal to them. So just, throwing that out there. Yeah, Izzy, is addiction a purpose problem? So I certainly found a lot of value in finding purpose after I stopped using substances. Purpose in my family, purpose in my career, purpose in my fitness, purpose. I do have a faith background. I don't talk about it on my channel, but I do. I certainly found purpose to be very beneficial. Do I think purpose is a requirement? No, I don't. You can just stop using drugs if that's what you want to do and live the exact life that you're living right now. Now, I tend to appeal to people who want to find more purpose, who want to go to that next level, who want to fulfill their potential, et cetera, et cetera. That's more what I appeal to because that's the type of person I am. That's how I run my stuff. But do you need to find purpose to quit a drug? No, you don't. There's some people that can be perfectly content without drugs and without purpose, just doing stuff all day, right? So I think there's a lot of people. I think I could find a lot of people that don't use substances that also don't have purpose, but that don't use substances. Okay, CJ, what's up? 364 days, no more cannabis consumption. Congratulations, CJ. That's right, man. You did it. You did it. I'm glad my videos were able to act as a guide. I quit smoking cannabis or marijuana for 1 month, and the first week has been the hardest. Just keep going. Yeah, guys, it's so funny because people will come in and they'll have preconceived notions. They'll think, I'm going to go through horrible withdrawals. I'm going to struggle for years or months. And so many times that's not true. One of the first things I work on with people is figuring out where their fear lies. Because there's for a lot of people, there's a lot of fear going into stopping using a drug. What's my life going to be like without the drug? What's my life going to be like if I continue to use the drug? And the person can't figure that out, and then they get stuck in the middle, and the middle is continued substance use. They don't want to explore continued substance use. They don't want to explore life without the drug. They become kind of paralyzed by fear, which is often nothing more than a series of false expectations appearing real, and then they wind up becoming indecisive. And this is the person that quits, doesn't quit, quits, doesn't quit. I'm going to vape, I'm not going to vape. I'm going to smoke weed, I'm not going to smoke weed. And then they wind up burning themselves out with decision-making fatigue. That decision-making fatigue becomes a subconscious rot that spills into their business, their career, their family life, their faith practice. It's really a horrible thing. I see it all the time. Yeah, fear. Yeah. Sky organization or organization. Yeah, thank you for the compliment. I'm glad my videos made quitting easy for you. I think no, I can say confidently I've helped literally thousands of people quit substances, and I know we've made their journey, their decision much easier than without our help. So it's awesome to see that right here and interact with you guys. I'm struggling. One thing I'm struggling with is ADHD and OCD. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I took zero meds. So Gurwal, I think you have to start to ask yourself a few things. Okay. So here's the deal. ADHD, OCD. I get it. Look, everyone who uses a substance in 99% of cases is struggling with something. Even people who just use drugs to have fun, they're struggling not using drugs because they think they make it more fun. But like in 99% of cases, someone is telling me they're using a drug for a reason, to deal with their family, to deal with their work stress, to deal with something. So ADHD and OCD is no different, right? Someone has insomnia, someone has physical pain, someone has trauma, someone has this, that. We all have a reason, a valid reason to use drugs. Most people have a valid reason to self medicate and use drugs. Do you want to give validity to that reason? Okay. Just because it's valid doesn't mean you have to validate it. All right. And I think in a case like this, I'd ask you, okay, so was self-medicating improving your quality of life? If it was, keep doing it then. I'm not going to tell you to stop. But also, it sounds like you probably haven't explored other options when it comes to really managing ADHD, OCD, all that stuff, right? I'm hyper ADHD. I'm nuts, right? Like, and I sincerely mean that. Am I formally diagnosed with anything? No, but like I'm wild. You can see it on my YouTube channels. You can see it in the way I speak. You can see it in the way my life is organized. Okay. I'm chaotic. But like there's ways to work with it. There's ways to manage it. OCD, I talked about a supplement earlier, N-acetylcysteine, tons of literature to help with that. And look, another thing too, obsessive compulsive disorder. What is substance use? It's an obsessive compulsive behavior, right? I mean, that's really what it is. It's a very compulsive behavior. That's what a substance use disorder is. So like everyone who's using drugs has some level of OCD, right? So just don't let that stop you from trying to improve your quality of life, because you can improve your quality of life despite having some diagnosis or some condition, because we all got something. We all got something. Okay. Making the goal to quit smoking weed again. Nervous about the insomnia. That's always the worst. Yeah, Nick, the insomnia is kind of rough. I mean, the insomnia is kind of rough. I get it. It's one of those things that you just have to go through. And I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, if it lasts an amount of time that becomes dangerous, then maybe you need some medical help on dealing with the insomnia, right? But for most people, they can get through it without being in a crisis situation. But yeah, if you're going on insomnia and you're getting zero sleep beyond 3 days, now we're concerned about developing psychosis from insomnia, and we need maybe some medical intervention to get you sedated or knocked out just so you get some sleep, right? Unfortunately, I've seen that. In a lot of cases, though, most people, they're getting light sleep or really, really shitty sleep, but they are actually sleeping to a point where it's not dangerous. Okay. That's a big thing. Insomnia is one thing, but like is sleep deprivation to a point of danger is a different thing. Secondly, for me, that stage of my life was instrumental. The insomnia that I went through when I quit substances, that was training day for when I had my first kid. I'm gonna be honest with you. My son, you guys see me post, he did not sleep for the first year of life. Like he did not sleep at all. Like, I mean, I was averaging 4, maybe 5 hours of sleep a night, very crappy, broken up. I'd sleep for 2 hours, be awake for 4 hours. Quitting drugs was a training protocol for what I was up against with my son when he was born. Honestly, when he was born, the third day in the hospital from him not sleeping, I had actually told my wife that I had to leave the hospital and go home and rest because I was actually worried about having like a psychotic episode from being up for 3 days straight. And I felt terrible telling her that because she was the one who went through the C-section, not me. But I knew my brain and I knew that I was getting to a point of like legitimate danger. So we got to be careful when we talk about insomnia related to it, right? Um, it's just annoying to quit. Things to become fun again. No BS. 21 days is all you need. Yeah, for some people it's 21 days. Some people it's more. You are, but you're absolutely right. You're building accountability. You're building commitment. You're building confidence. When people come to me and they got cravings, I'm like, great. You have an opportunity to stack a win today. And if you got 5, 10 cravings today, that's 5, 10 wins you can stack up today. That builds confidence. That builds momentum. That builds self-worth. Now you can apply that confidence to your career. You can apply that to your relationships. You can apply that to dating. You can apply it to fitness. I don't think people comprehend the value in stopping the use of a substance and the character trait development that can either occur or sharpen in sobriety. I don't think people understand what that is actually worth. It is so significant. It is so life changing if done correctly and given the appropriate amount of time, right? So, QLF has a question. When I stopped smoking marijuana, I began smoking more cigarettes. Is that normal? Yeah, very normal. In many cases, actually, when I'm working with someone who has like a serious cannabis substance use disorder and they're smoking cigarettes, I'll usually warn them. I'll say, look, if we're not quitting both at the same time, I'll usually say, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to quit cannabis, and chances are you're going to start smoking more cigarettes. And, we're not going to stay there forever, but for right now, let's get rid of cannabis. Then let's revisit the cigarettes and get that under control later on. And maybe in a case like that, depending on how soon we quit, we're doing supplementation. Maybe we're doing NRT. Maybe we're doing cold turkey on the cigarettes eventually. It just depends on where that person's mindset is at and how much extra boost I think they're going to need when it comes to quitting. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have BPD and weed is the best temporary fix I know. So, yeah, look, like a few things. One, I have seen several people diagnosed with BPD, and I have now interviewed 2 psychiatrists on my channel who have said the exact same thing that I said, who have stopped consuming cannabis and have literally been no longer diagnosed as BPD. That's one thing. All of the literature, all the current literature on BPD and cannabis is negative. Now, here's what I'm going to say, AT. I'm not going to discredit the fact that you feel it helps you, though. If you feel that is the only thing helping you right now, continue consuming cannabis. And in the meantime, work on finding some other ways to manage the the BPD that could be beneficial to you. Start to implement those other things in, make progress, and then revisit stopping the use of cannabis or whatever drug it is you're referencing. Okay, I assume it's cannabis, but yeah. So I hope that helps you out. Dopamine replacement. Yeah, I mean, I very much still chase dopamine. Right? I get dopamine hits when I work with my clients. I get dopamine hits doing this live at 11 p.m. at night before I'm gonna go to bed. Wouldn't be advised, right? I don't care. I very much chase. I get dopamine in my business. I get it from interacting with my wife and my child. I love dopamine. I love chasing dopamine. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I've always been that way. That's why my company is called Addiction Mindset. I never tried to, I don't, I'm not out here trying to claim that I'm trying to flatline my dopamine. That's not the case. I'm just very decisive now about where I'm going to direct that dopamine and that motivation. Business, family, faith, fitness, physical health, mental health on repeat. Okay. That's how I do it. You know what I mean? Addiction mindset. I still very much have that mindset of addiction. I use it to my benefit versus my downfall. That's all. So yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Cold turkey 2 weeks in. Withdrawals are subsiding. Great, Adam. I still have issues with brain fog. Yeah. Yeah. Creatine gummies are helping. Great. Creatine is awesome. N-acetylcysteine is awesome. Alpha GPC can help with focus and brain fog. I'll use that sometimes with people. In some instances, I actually will use KSM 66 ashwagandha. But Adam, outside of that, I think we have to be realistic. Do you have brain fog because you've had 2 weeks of insomnia during the withdrawals? Have you had appetite dysregulation? And have you not been eating that great during the withdrawal? Because brain fog, right? Do you have brain fog just because you're under stress because you're quitting drugs and you have exams coming up? We always have to assess the lifestyle factors before we address the supplementation factors. So many times in my one-on-one protocols, people will come in and they're like, Dr. Frank, I got this crazy supplement lineup. And I'm a guy that makes supplements. Like, we have supplements that we make for a living. Kick It Crave Less Chewing Gum, awesome product. KickItRevolution.com if you want to check it out. But I'm always like, no, stop. Let's look at the lifestyle first. Supplements, medications are supplemental to lifestyle, right? Supplements can help, but they only help if you got the right lifestyle in place. So, yeah, but huge fan of creatine. Creatine monohydrate is something I take every day. It's great for brain function. Lots of literature coming out about it as an antidepressant. Very good for energy production, ATP production, especially in those fast burst energy moments. Very good. Mhm. Meditation, fantastic. Yeah, that's another really good one. Okay, your channel helped me figure out how to cope with CHS. JJB, I'm glad it helped you how to cope. And JGB, I hope, I don't hope, I hope you do whatever you want, but hopefully you've made that decision to consider, or you've decided to stop consuming cannabis, because that is one of those situations where, yeah, like, continued cannabis consumption can absolutely destroy your life. So how do you know if you're addicted to adult media? Like, I use it a lot, but when is it an addiction? Great question. How do you identify something as an addiction, right? This goes into a deeper question. Do I even really believe in addiction? I don't know, So it's a very loaded question to answer, because my views on addiction and how I work around it have changed so dramatically from 7 or 8 years ago when I started this channel, right? Um, I think I would be more concerned with, is it in some way, shape, or form negatively disrupting my life? Right? Is adult media disrupting it ethically for you? Is it disrupting your physical health, your mental health? Right? That's the question. Financial well-being, relationships. I'd be more concerned about that than whether or not I'm addicted, right? I could be quote unquote addicted to working out. But if I was addicted to an extent where it wasn't damaging me, I wouldn't really care that I'm addicted. Okay. If I was addicted to adult media content and it had been that way for a while, but I had no negative consequences of use, I quite frankly don't think I'd really care. Now, for me, I do care. There's ethical problems with it. There's certainly physical health considerations and mental health things that I suffered from that. So I'd be more concerned about that, because, like, yeah, if I said to you, well, you're addicted, but you're not getting any negatives, you'd be like, well, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, just to label someone with an addiction is kind of useless without knowing more about that person and their deeper level of relationship with the drug. And again, do I believe in addiction even? Honestly, not really. I believe in physical dependence, but addiction is very much a mindset. It's very much a choice. It's a problem with decision making, right? Yes, there's neurochemical changes that happen in the brain with addiction. But guess what? Neurochemical changes happen when I work out. They happen, when I have intercourse. They happen when I have strong social connections with people. They happen when I eat certain foods. Right? Everything is impacting my brain all day long. They happen when I'm browsing and binging social media. Okay, so interesting, right? What do I do if I quit weed but can't quit alcohol? Well, I think, Joey, you start to get some help, right? Like, I mean, ask questions, right? I'm not sure. What do I do if I quit weed but I can't quit alcohol? Do you want to quit alcohol? Are you trying to quit alcohol? I'm not sure where you're going with this. There's so many different ways to approach quitting alcohol. I don't know how addicted you are, right? Alcohol is one of those drugs. If you're heavily physically dependent on it, then you have to be very careful when you stop. You might need medical detox. You might look into the Sinclair method for quitting. You might look into I don't know, Alan Carr's books. I mean, you might look into our one-on-one coaching program, right? I put the link in the video description there, right? So, I'm not sure what you're asking me. It's a little too vague. Why are you struggling to quit alcohol? I think is my question. Um, it's not so easy to know I feel unlike it's not so easy to know how I feel unlike nicotine, alcohol, and THC. When do the headaches from quitting weed stop? I've been sober for 9 months and they are still there. So I don't think that's from quitting weed, Kenneth. That's kind of odd. I had one other case where I was actually working with a client one-on-one about this. Um, I don't think after 9 months you're getting headaches still related to cannabis. Maybe there's some odd scenario, but I don't think it's related to cannabis at that point. Uh, you need to be looking into something else for that. In my opinion, you should be getting a proper medical workup. Are you getting tension headaches? Are they vascular related? Are they neurological? Well, all headaches, I guess, are technically neurological, but is there some other neurological pathology going on? Is it lifestyle related since you've quit? I don't know. That doesn't add up though. I'd get that looked into. Um, yeah, I'm not sure on that one. So, yeah, exhaustion at 2 weeks is very, very normal after quitting substances. For most people, that's going to be like a peak detox time. I think we're all addicted to adult media. Um, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are addicted to adult media, right? Like, I think a lot of people indulge in it. Uh, yeah, I would agree. Vyvanse, Adderall for ADHD seem to be potentiated, make me crave nicotine way more. I hear that all the time from people. All the time. I hear that. Yep. Guilt, shame, and regret keeps you in a cycle of negative behavioral patterns for sure. It definitely can. Yeah, I've for sure. Um, okay, let's see here. You don't judge me, Dr. Frank. Anytime I smoke weed, it made me feel horny. Yeah, that's super normal. I actually made a video on this. I called the video Canna Sex or something like that. Having intercourse without cannabis. I said that's the one thing that I know since quitting. I really truly like I felt cannabis enhanced that aspect of my life. Um I'm open about that when I talk to people. Yeah, I don't judge you for that. That's people talk to me about that all the time, right? Sometimes that becomes a thing. I had a client once and a big thing was they were stopping using cannabis, him and his partner, him and his wife, and they were like, "Look, we're kind of concerned because our sex life is heavily involved with cannabis usage." So, we found some workarounds for that for them, but yeah, that's a real thing. Um Dizziness after quitting nicotine is very normal. That could have to do with blood sugar dysregulation. It could have to do with the nicotine detox. It could have to do with changes in cortisol levels. It could also have to do with changes in epinephrine and norepinephrine as you're quitting. Very, very normal after quitting nicotine. Now, in some cases, when people are quitting nicotine and I see extreme dizziness, that's usually a case where I'll consider doing nicotine replacement therapy, like a patch or something like that. Is dull chest pain after quitting vaping normal? Chest pain, I never would tell someone is normal. So I would always tell you to go speak to your doctor. Have I seen it before? Yes. Could it be a problem? Maybe. Always go speak to your doctor when you have chest pain. And I typically recommend doing that sooner than later. I've had instances where I've had people have had ongoing chest pain from vaping, especially vapes, like nicotine vapes and, well, cannabis vapes too, to be honest. And in some instances, I may recommend a full cardiac workup for it, which is going to be a stress test. I'm going to want a stress test, an echocardiogram, an EKG, and I usually like to see some blood work in there too. Maybe we'll do a coronary CT scan too, if they have really poor nutrition and a health history of heart attack in their family. So, yeah, just a few things there. Okay. Yeah, out of time, anytime. I'm happy to give support. King Sigma, congratulations on 3 weeks. Joey M, can I help you out with the current times? Yeah, Joey. I mean, look, we have one-on-one coaching protocols. It's not for everyone. My protocol is really geared towards high-level professionals, high-performance individuals, right, who are struggling with nicotine, cannabis. We certainly work with alcohol, okay? But yeah, the whole point of what I do with people is helping them in real time in real life. That's the beauty of the one-on-one coaching that I offer. I'm not telling you to run away from your family or your career. The goal is to help someone quit in real time, in real life, because that's how you're going to most successfully stop dealing with your current problems and your current stressors. So, how do I quit and continue working so hard? Yeah. Mhm. Mo, this is very common, right? Even for myself, right? Like, I wasn't a complete failure, right? Like, I got a doctorate in chiropractic. I was in private practice. I had other business things going on, even though towards the end for me, it got kind of messed up. But um, to say I've been very successful and THC got me through it, I'd give you this. I'd say maybe THC got you going, but typically in business, the things that got you going aren't going to be the things that keep you growing, right? Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk aren't doing the same things today that they were doing on day one when they started their business. Well, Elon Musk is doing ketamine now, I guess, from a medical standpoint, which I'm not against at all. But I'm just throwing that out there as like I don't know, maybe I'm trying to be sarcastic, but like uh here's my deal. Like, but it's not uncommon. So maybe THC got you going, but that's not going to keep you growing at this point. Okay. Chances are your environment, your relationship, your circumstances have changed. And when your environment and your circumstances change, so does your relationship with THC. Okay. Now, two, how do I quit and continue working so hard? You stop, you figure out what your baseline is, and then you take lifestyle modifications to improve upon that baseline. I never thought I'd be able to work as hard as I worked when I was using nicotine and cannabis. I thought that was the secret sauce to doing well. Maybe you slip in some Adderall and stuff like that too, right? No, that is the secret sauce to push your body beyond its baseline tolerance. And eventually, at some point, for most people, it's usually around 40 years old, where catastrophe starts to strike. Um, there's two types of people who make a lot of money. You got people who do it literally solely driven through drugs. I mean it. Cocaine, Adderall, nicotine, pornography, cannabis to help them sleep at night. They just pound drugs to work abnormal amounts of time. Okay. Eventually, something happens. Their heart fails, their body fails, their mind fails. And it typically fails before they get a chance to enjoy all their success. Okay. Now, you got the other person who can be hyper successful who just takes great care of themselves. They value their sleep, they value their physical fitness. They're very careful of their social connections. They build up their baseline capabilities to take on the crazy work demands that they have, right? It's 11:30 at night. I woke up today, I worked. It's Sunday morning. I enjoy working. I wanted to work. I have fun talking to my clients one-on-one. So I woke up, I took care of some voice notes, I worked out. Then I spent the whole day entertaining people. My son, my wife, her friends were over all day long. They got little kids. Did that all day long. Made dinner with everyone. Did this, did that. Worked a little bit more. And now I hopped on a live, right? And then tomorrow, it's Monday morning. It's going to be go, 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 right? Like, and I do take time off. Trust me, I do relax when I feel like it. But like, I could have never worked this capacity on substance use. Never would have touched it. So, what's up? What's up, Spidey Nick? But just made a decision to go back to smoking the whole week. Just writing these out. Okay. Currently on day 5. Anytime. Happy to help. Happy to help. Happy to help. Um, I quit for 2 months and I'm back on it. I feel like I need weed for everything. Yeah, most people who have a substance use disorder feel like they need it for everything, right? I, People will talk to me like, well, Dr. Frank, driving's a trigger, eating a big meal is a trigger. But literally, for me, waking up and breathing was a trigger. Like, literally, breathing was triggering for me. Okay. So, like, we gotta, like, we got to break this mindset when we're talking about triggers, when we're talking about this stuff. If this is what you guys are talking about, like, you're in the wrong mindset. You're in the wrong frame of mind, and you don't know how to approach this. I didn't either for a very, very long time, but the mindset and the terminology and how you speak about it very much matters, because that's how you're going to frame addiction. When we're talking about triggers and relapse, I know I you need a different frame. You need a different frame of how you're viewing this thing, okay? Which is what I help people with. Again, I put a link where you can apply, because we have like a crazy application process for our one-on-one coaching, because I'm fairly selective of like how I work with people. So, but I did put a link for that in the video description, okay? Okay, let's see here. The boredom that gets me. Jeremy, I say it all the time. Drugs do not help cure the boredom. I find in most cases they make people content with being bored. And then there's a reality for some people. Some people are just boring, right? I was kind of boring. I used substances for years. Cannabis for me eventually became very isolating. I would even binge drink alone. I used to go out and binge drink. Then I started binge drinking alone. Right? All these drugs made me very isolated. So when I quit, I was bored. Because my life had become kind of boring through constant drug use. So I think boredom is also a very important thing, though, for a lot of people, because it's in the boredom where you're going to get mental clarity. And it's in the boredom that you're going to start to figure out what it is you want to do next with your life. But if you never allow for that boredom and you keep reverting back to taking the substance, swallowing the pill, doing the thing, smoking the weed, you're never giving your brain a chance to figure out what's next. And then you're stuck in the most uncomfortable of comfort zones, right? Continued substance use, but you don't even like doing it, right? So I and people frame in many cases, again, it's a framing problem. People frame boredom as a bad thing. Boredom is not a bad thing. Boredom is an opportunity to clear your head. It's an opportunity to meditate. It's an opportunity to figure out what the next step is. So like again, like, boredom is not a bad thing. Cravings aren't even a bad thing. Cravings are opportunities to stack wins throughout the day. It's framing problems I see time and time again. Um, I'm getting sleep, but I'm tired as hell. Yeah, but out of time, you're still early on. You're still early on. So, because yeah, you're sleeping, but your body's still probably pretty intensely detoxing, right? When do nicotine withdrawals fully stop? It's gonna depend. It depends. It just varies person to person. Nicotine detox is typically over in about the first 2 weeks. Detox is referring to the removal of the drug from your system. Nicotine detox is very fast. Alcohol detox, very rapid. Cannabis detox, I've seen it take up to 3-4 months. Okay. Withdrawal is a reference to the brain changes and things that are going on. Okay. And that's going to vary person to person. It depends on their physical shape, it depends on their relationships, it depends on other stressors in their life. Okay. Most people, though, 90 days for most substances, people tend to be doing better. Like, if you want, like, the worst case scenario, you might quit nicotine and feel good after like a week. It just depends on the person. So, um, mhm, mhm. What's the first major step to quitting weed and vaping? I want to quit weed so bad, vaping too, but I'm petrified of the withdrawals. The first step is to overcome the fear. You, Kayla, are scared of something that you don't even know what it's going to look like for you, right? I see this all the time, Kayla, all the time. I'm terrified of the withdrawals, but you haven't even taken the step to quit. Don't be afraid of something that hasn't happened to you yet. We don't know what the withdrawals are going to look like for you. So don't live in fear. I see this prevent people from stopping all the time. And then this fear starts to create subconscious rot that creeps into other aspects of other people's lives. They start to live in fear. And living in fear is it's very tough. It's very, very tough. So Kayla, that's my first thing for you. My second thing, what is the first step? The first step is dismantling the perceived beliefs and the perceived value that drugs are giving you. That's step number 1. And you can do that by asking yourself, why do I consume the drug? Truly, why do I consume it? It's not just because you're addicted. Why? What do you enjoy about it? Then you have to ask the question, why do I want to quit? And then you have to pit those two answers against one another. And if you do it correctly, you're going to create cognitive dissonance. Okay? You're going to create like it's not going to make sense anymore. And that's how we start to quit, right? This is what I do with people on a really high level, okay? When I'm working with people one-on-one. This is what we're doing, and this is why I have crazy success rates working with people, okay? Um all right. Yeah, King Sigma, anytime on the reassurance, anytime. I feel like it's 10 times harder to quit both cold turkey. Yeah, and Kayla, in your case, I'd recommend quitting, probably cannabis first, then nicotine. If I'm dealing with someone who has both nicotine and cannabis, I don't know, 95% of the time, if we're not doing both at once, I'm usually recommending stopping cannabis first. Again, it might vary, but my thoughts on CBD flower that help aid in the cannabis quit. Brit Dog, I don't mind using CBD. I've used CBD many times helping people come off of cannabis. I'm not a fan of the flower though. I'm not, it's just a personal bias for health reasons. In many cases, people are quitting with the objective to get healthier, and smoking anything is not healthy. You're still getting crazy amounts of tar production with smoking CBD flower. So I just don't recommend smoking. A high quality CBD product, domestically grown, third party testing. The company, they're valid, right? All stuff that we do with our supplements to help people quit. I'm all for CBD. I'm just not a fan of smoking it. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, the dreams when you quit cannabis calm down over time. Yes, in many, many cases they calm down. The reason why the crazy dreams happen is it's REM rebound. And wait until you get the dreams of relapsing, right? Or choosing to go back to doing the drug. It is fascinating how deep in the subconscious mind substance use ingrains its freaking claws in a person. Every time I quit something, nicotine, cannabis, porn, I'd always get into it, and then like a few months in, and a few weeks in, a few months, I'd wake up like thinking I just smoked weed, thinking I just watched porn. It was crazy. Um, but yeah, the dreams they eventually calm down. I don't know an exact timeline again because everyone's going to be different, but they do calm down. It's your brain catching up though. Like your brain is trying to make sense of weeks, months, years, or decades of substance use and suppressed things, right? REM sleep is where your brain is making sense of how you've interacted with the world for a duration of time, right? So, yeah. Um, Ketamine and quitting weed and alcohol. Yeah, I know some people that do a lot of stuff with ketamine clinics. I've seen some really cool things. I've heard some very positive stuff. I've seen people get ketamine and it made them worse. So I could go either way on that. Um, it's not really my thing. I don't. It's not really my thing. But I've heard some incredible testimonials of people doing really well going through withdrawal with the ketamine treatment. Um, yeah, Kava. Would I suggest it? King Sigma, you're 3 weeks in. Do you really need it? Kava has. I think Kava's fine. but kava definitely has some potential for trouble. I mean, everything has potential for trouble, right? Working out has potential for trouble. You get addicted to working out, you become anorexic, you start to damage your body, right? But like kava, I think it's just a little more likely to get some trouble from kava. I'd start with something simpler, like a magnesium supplement or something like that. I wouldn't like jump to kava. And again, why are you trying to use kava? Is it kava for stress relief? I like KSM 66 ashwagandha a lot more. I think it's a safer bet. Um, Now, again, though, what are you trying to get stress relief from? Should you be using a supplement to subdue that stress, or is that stress your body's fire alarm telling you that something needs to change? Maybe you shouldn't be trying to subdue that stress, or whatever it may be. And I don't even know why you're looking to take kava. So that was just a total rant. Um, so I'm cleaning my room. That's the best thing to do out of time. I love cleaning. Cleaning is one of the best ways to stay busy. I wish I had more time to clean. I don't have time anymore. I'm busy working with clients. I'm busy with my family. I'm busy doing lives. But cleaning is a lovely activity. It's a great way to keep the mind occupied. It also involves physical movement. And I think physical movement is a beautiful thing anytime you're quitting a substance. Um, I'm having trouble completely quitting cigarettes while my husband is still smoking and insistent that he doesn't want to quit. Yeah, Jade, I see this all the time with people. Um, what does your husband smoking have to do with you quitting? Right? Because Jade, if you're at a point which we'd want to get you to, that you truly see no value in consuming a cigarette again, it doesn't matter why your husband's consuming it, right? Your quit should not be dependent upon his decision to smoke or not smoke. And the only way you're going to have any influence over him in this case is likely by quitting yourself, showing him that the grass is better on the other side, and then eventually maybe influencing him into stopping just by proving that it's possible. Um, Now I don't know all the details of your relationship, but generally speaking, like I tell people, honestly, for the time being, that's someone else's decision to consume is not your concern. Now you're married to the person and you might be worried about them dying one day of cancer or a heart attack. I understand that. That's a different topic for later on though. But like in the moment, like that should not be impacting you. If you have the right mindset, that would not be a factor. Okay. Um, that would not be a factor with the right mindset. That's all I could say. Um, so Jade, I would say in this case you're probably quitting more out of willpower. And that's why I think you're probably struggling with this situation a little bit more than you need to be. That's my guess. Um, okay. Can I give to someone who's 17 years old, quitting cold turkey, used to do it every day for 4 months, 7 days going strong? You're doing great. You're 17. You got your whole life ahead of you. Um, Man, I wish I would have stopped when I was 17 and developed the things that I've developed. You're 17. The chances of your body healing are significantly better than if you were much older. I mean, that's just a reality. Like, perfect time to stop. Honestly, I don't really have a lot of advice because like you're gonna do good. Like your brain's gonna heal fast. Your body's gonna heal fast. I would just be very cautious in the future to what you put your attention towards. And I think it's a good lesson to learn at 17 than 40, 50, 60, 27 when I stopped, right? So, yeah. Um, yeah, cigars are great. An easy solution to all of this. So, okay, listen. Cigars are smoking, cigars are nicotine, okay? I don't everything is great to someone, right? Alcohol is great to someone. Cannabis is great to someone. Zen is great to someone. Cigars are great to someone. Fine. They're great for you. Do it. Now, I understand what you're saying. Easy solution to all of this. You're saying just have a cigar, don't smoke weed, don't drink alcohol, don't smoke cigarettes, blah blah blah. I get what you're saying. And to some extent, there can be a harm reduction path in what you're saying. It's not completely crazy, actually. Okay. Because if someone's smoking, I don't know, a pack of cigarettes a day, but they start having a cigar once every 2 weeks and they're happy with that, well, yes, they just significantly improve their quality of life. Okay. Um, So I get what you're saying, but what you're saying is also like very much like projection of like cigars are great for you, but that doesn't mean they're great for someone else, right? Like they still come with very real risk. Anytime you're burning something and I understand you don't inhale cigars, but trust me, you're still getting a crap ton of stuff into your system. It's to say it's great is, maybe your experience smoking is great, but yeah, what you're saying is like it's too blurred. Um, is marijuana a feminizing drug uh to a male? I mean, well, the answer is yes. Marijuana negatively impacts androgens and stuff like that. Like that's just proven. I mean, men who consume too much cannabis will develop gynecomastia, right? They'll get like female looking breast tissue. This is just a proven thing. How cannabis negatively impacts testosterone and other androgens. So that yes, I would agree. It is. I mean, that's just science though. Um I'm in another country to get a boob job. I cannot vape or get weed or nicotine. I don't know what I'm going to do once I get back. I'm all stressed. So I would tell you, you should really work on quitting because you're probably investing some degree of money into that boob job. And smoking anything is going to decrease the chances of a successful outcome for you. Even nicotine is going to decrease the successful chances because of its vasoconstriction on blood flow. Okay. So I would tell you, stop for now, protect your investment of your boob job. Like you don't want to risk that. Like I would tell you, like if you think you're going to come back and just start using, you're risking a significantly higher chance of a failed surgery. So, and that would be bad because you got in another country, and now who's going to see you when you come back to your country for follow up? Like that, this could all be a problem. So, like, I would take that very seriously. Right? I gave you so much hope. Yeah, anytime, Anthony. Anytime, anytime. I have fun with this stuff. Okay, let's see. Let's see. All right, guys. Actually, I think I'm good. Yeah, go have a good steak dinner. I think a good steak dinner is better than a cigar. That's my opinion. So Joe Sosa still doing great. Awesome, 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 Joe. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. Quitting is kind of more easy than difficult. I quit weed 6 months ago, but I can't seem to quit nicotine. All right, guys. I gotta take off. All right. I think that's about it. Yeah. I think that's about it. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'm going to go to bed. I got a full day tomorrow. This is what we're going to do. If you need help, you are a high level professional, you're consuming cannabis, nicotine. We got a protocol, 98% success rate at helping people quit in as little as 48 hours in some circumstances. We do it privately, we do it without a public display of your substance use, and we do it to prevent relapse. So you can learn more about that with the link in the video description. Again, it's geared towards entrepreneurs, business owners, medical professionals, attorneys, real estate professionals, just because that's what I am. That's what I relate most closely to. Okay. So check that out. Otherwise, I talked a little bit about our chewing gum, Kick It Crave Less chewing gum. You can find that at kickitrevolution.com, the only nicotine free, cannabis free chewing gum to help you quit cannabis and nicotine. Awesome product. I love it. I use it myself because I invented it, I made it. I talked about some books. Check out Jack Trimpey's book, Rational Recovery. Absolutely check out the book, The Freedom Model. Okay, fantastic books on addiction recovery. And then lastly, if you are quitting THC, one of my channel sponsors, we should shout them out. Exploro, you can find them on Amazon. They have the 3-level THC urine test kit, Exploro, on Amazon. If you're detoxing THC or you're going to get a job and you get drug tested, check their products out. They have great products. And this is a way where you can actually track your THC detox at home, which helps with accountability. And it also helps us to understand why you're feeling the way you feel. Again, Exploro, THC, multi-level test kit. They also make one for nicotine. Exploro has all types of products when it comes to at-home testing. Again, they are a channel sponsor of ours. So check all that stuff out, guys. Until next time. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Thanks, King Stigma, for the donation. I appreciate it.